Important? Like a party or something. Mr. Rabbit!
Baby. We covering MMA from all over the world. This is the premier stop for all your combat sports needs. MMAjunkie Radio, the only show broadcasting live from the Mandalay Bay Resort and Casino in the fight capital of the world, Las Vegas, Nevada. The lights are on and the mics are hot. It's time to get your MMA fix, junkies. Take it away, Big John.
Gorgeous George and Ghost, are you ready? Junkie Nation, are you ready? Well, let's get it on.
From the fight capital of the world, inside the beautiful Mandalay Bay Racing Sportsbook, you're listening to the MMAjunkie Radio Show, the only show that matters. I'm your host, Gorgeous George. With me, as always, is the devious Dastardly Ghost, who's actually not here, but he will be. To my left, it's the fight analyst, Dan Tom. Back he's producing Jumbo Josh. All right, it's a Friday, and apologies for starting a little bit late. That's on Mandalay Bay. It's not on us. Had a key issue, but we stormed the studio. We're here. We're ready to go. We got 90 minutes in us, and we're going to have some fun here talking to Aspen Ladd, a UFC bantamweight contender who got royally effed yesterday. Her fight's now off with Holly Holm at UFC 235. We'll talk to her about that, see what's next for her in 2019, and then, of course, we'll preview UFC on ESPN Plus 2, starring Marlon Moraes and Rafael Assunção. They fought once before. Assunção beat him. But Marlon Moraes wowed his way through to get a rematch. And the winner could get a shot at TJ Dillashaw if TJ Dillashaw returns the bantamweight and fights. He keeps saying something about a fluke. But anyway, so what happened yesterday at the press conference was, we had Jones and Smith and everything. And along the way, one of the reporters, maybe even our own John Morgan, said, hey, where's Ladd and Holm? And he goes, Dana White says that fight's off. What? That fight's off. He didn't really want to elaborate. He did say we're looking for new fights for both of them. So I thought, okay, that at least clears us from USADA. That's the first thing I think about.
Right.
So that's not an issue. Injury's not an issue. But why? I don't know why I didn't think of it. And actually, I do know why. I'm going to answer my own question.
Right.
I know why I didn't think that either one could be fighting Nunes. Because Ladd, much respect. You know, I'm a big Aspen Ladd fan. She's undefeated, 7-0, 2-0 in the UFC, did her thing at Invicta, called her fights at Tough Enough. She's a gangster. But I felt like it's too soon for her, for Nunes. I think she would even agree. Ketlen Vera's the clear #1 contender. And then I think, well, it didn't even dawn on me that it could be Holly Holm. She's 2-4 in her last 6, and as an actual bantamweight itself, her last win was June of 2017.
Wow.
So we're literally on past 18 months.
That's right. Bebesh
Correa. She got a win. Yeah, it was Bech Correa.
Mm-hmm.
And then prior to that, she had lost to Shevchenko and Tate. So if we go back to her last 3, she's 1-3. You know, if you want to go back to her last 5, I suppose she's 3-2 or whatever. But I just thought that don't make sense. But apparently that might be what's happening. But as of yesterday, the only thing we knew was that there was negotiations or renegotiations going on, and that had to do with Holm's side. And we've never really been too close with Holm's side, but we've been close with Ladd's side. And I figured we got to get Aspen on. I gotta see where this young lady's head's at, man. 1 month away, you just mid-camp, you steal someone's fight like that. That sucks, you know. So I'm pretty sure Josh has got her. Josh is working on getting her on soon, right, Josh? Or do we have her? He's probably working on it.
Yeah,
right
yeah, but yeah, you got to imagine something's in the works, and yeah, definitely curious to see what Aspen has to say and her thoughts about it. Obviously, first and foremost, but yeah, I mean, talk about
he's ready,
taking us by shock and sparking the old speculation machine, right?
Yeah. All right, joining us on the hotline is Aspen Ladd, who, by the way, you can follow on Twitter at Aspen Ladd MMA. She joins us now on the hotline. Hi, Aspen. How are you?
Aspen's a little better.
All right. Well, let's talk it through here. Welcome back to MMAjunkie Radio. You're on with George and Dan. Goes will be here soon. We found out yesterday through the press conference, and I think you may have found out the same way, that you just flat out weren't fighting on March 2nd. And I got to tell you, Aspen, I thought that sucks. I really loved the matchup. And when I heard it, I was like, man, that sucks. Hope they're not injured. But Dana kind of gave a little hint that wasn't the case. That it wasn't like an injury case or an USADA case, because he said it looks like we're looking for new fights for both of them. But anyway, let's stop right there. What did you think of the news when you heard it, and what's transpired in the last 24 hours that hopefully either has you in a better state of mind?
Oh my goodness. No, I found out just like everybody else. I was ready for the time.
Put her on the screener again.
Next time I go, I'm getting out and I had like 20 missed messages. And I found out that like everybody else did.
Never mind,
shocked.
good.
Yeah. Shocked is a perfect word for it. Now, as of yesterday, we heard it had to do with contract negotiations, but now we're hearing today that it could be that she's getting the Nunes fight at UFC 237. Nothing's been confirmed, but have you kind of been hearing the same stuff? And if so, your thoughts on that?
Yeah, I mean, I've been hearing the same stuff. We all have all the rumors, but I wouldn't be shocked. There's really not that many options left to fight Amanda right now, at least not that makes sense. So if that happens, yeah, definitely not surprising to me. It's just surprising in the context of we're supposed to fight.
Right. Well, wouldn't you agree, though, that Caitlin Vera should be next? I mean, I'd love to see Holm versus Nunes. I'd love to see Ladd versus Nunes. You know, Nunes is a stud, no doubt. She's cleaning out the division. But I feel like Vera, for sure, is just there, you know. She's got the win streak. She's undefeated. Holm is 2-4 in her last 6. As an MMA fighter, she's 1-3 in her last 3 as a bantamweight. Her last fight was a win against Betchkreev, but it was over 18 months ago. I mean, this makes no sense.
Yeah, no. I was wondering about that too, because considering if maybe Caitlyn's still injured. Who knows? But if she's not, then no, it doesn't make sense.
Yeah,
I don't know if that's status.
We're having a little trouble hearing you. Are you on a speaker?
I am not. I'm stepping the hill. Here, let me see if I can fix it.
Okay.
Can you hear a little bit better now?
Yeah, I can hear you better now. All right.
Okay.
So now what, I guess, is the next question. If those two get paired together, what happens to Aspen Ladd? What does Aspen Ladd want?
I just want to fight as soon as possible, as often as possible. And it's just, like I said last time, I'm not chasing a title. I'm really not. I'm only 23. I'm here to fight as many people as I can, as often as I can, to make a name for myself. We're all in the UFC. We're all good. And I've only fought a couple of them. Just give me a fight.
You know, I was telling Dan the same thing. You are only 23. You got that on your side. Holly's a little older, so maybe that's the reason. But the UFC's in this money fight era or whatever, where your resume doesn't matter. You know, your popularity is what matters. And if you're popular, then guess what? You're in a title fight, and it kind of sucks. I mean, I try and stomach it from time to time, but then there's times where I just shake my damn head, and this is definitely one of them. All right, let's turn it over to the fight analyst, Dan. Dan, what do you have for Aspen Ladd?
Hey, you know, Aspen, it's hard to pull silver linings, especially as an outsider who doesn't know how you feel. You know how you truly, obviously feel about it. But at the same time, there's got to be some silver linings in the fact that when I look at your career, especially as of late, I mean, I can't help but see fight-to-fight improvements. Obviously, I'm only able to see what you're able to do on fight night, not in the gym. But if I were one of these fighters, I would be wanting to fight Aspen Ladd before she gets any better. So
That's true.
Am I wrong there, Aspen? Is that kind of a false silver lining, or is there some truth to that? That it's probably going to be worse for the opposition the longer they give you.
I never really thought about it that way. I mean, I was thinking, okay, silver lining, I'm in great shape. I'm fight ready just about now. So, But as far as only getting better, I mean, that's not really something I sit here and contemplate. It's just I keep training and I keep improving. This fight, I was just she was a unique challenge, and I was very excited about it. So that's kind of the big disappointing thing. But at the same time, I mean, more fights, more opportunities. You fight somebody as high up as Holly Holm, which I was excited to do. It kind of cuts out your opportunities to fight other people, you know? Because once you beat that, there's only so many people are going to give you.
Absolutely, unless we not forget, you already are coming off of a win off of another former champion. For people that aren't familiar with Tanya Evinger, so yeah, I mean, obviously you've already set that precedent. So does that mean? I mean, perhaps this is more for your manager. As you know, I don't blame you fighters for you have enough to stress about that, negotiations and whatnot. But being that precedent has been set, your trajectory is pretty clear. Do you put your heels in when you're brought with a matchup, an option, or whatever they're going to bring to the table for you?
No, just pure excitement. Okay, you want me to fight this person? Great. Jump on the opportunity. That's what I've always done. That's what I did with this last fight and everyone before it. I've never been okay, let's ho-hum and say no about it. It's like, okay, this is a unique opportunity. This is a great next step. Let's do it. So it's not really, I don't sit there and contemplate it too long. It's like, all right, let's do this.
I think I got the matchup, Aspen. So cooler heads are going to prevail here. I could have sworn I saw Juliana Pena is entertaining a comeback. She's been gone about 2 years now because she had her first baby. But I think she was saying, I'm ready to come back. Now, she's a name, so you kind of stay at that home level a little bit. Not a former champ, but a name that's well-known, respected, ranked. And they're starting to fill up an April 13 pay-per-view. I think the ship is sailing on Las Vegas, right? Or do you think you can, or would you like to still get an opponent in time for Las Vegas?
I don't think it's going to happen based on what's happening now. Where's the card at on the 13th? I haven't looked into April.
I wish I knew. That's a pay-per-view, though. They're committed to that pay-per-view, but it hasn't been announced. But here's another reason I'm bringing it up. Because, I forgot. Never mind. I got confused. I keep thinking Valentina's still a bantamweight, and I always tell fighters, get on the same card as the champion or whatever to be on the same timeline, and I fumbled that. But regardless, April 15th is 2 months away, and I think Juliana is a pretty good name, and maybe the return of Ketlin Vera. I don't know, but I was so excited for you because I've loved your progression along the way, and so now I want somebody kind of like up there like Holly Holm.
Yeah, I mean, if they give me that name, fantastic. Let's do it. I know she's been recovering for a long time. Who knows? There might be personal stuff there as well. If she's ready to come back, that'd be a great fight.
Yeah. All right. Goes, what do you have for Aspen Ladd?
Aspen, now, did anybody from the division, other fighters in your division, kind of come to your defense a little bit and just, give you a call, tell you to keep your head up, or even offer their services? Because we see sometimes when things like this go down, a lot of fighters throughout their careers, they've been through similar situations, and sometimes their hearts go out. Some of them get mean, but did any of that happen for you?
I'll be honest with you. I've been trying to stay a little bit off social media, at least not looking at too much of it, mostly because this is one of the situations where the trolls come out, and I'm just not about that. I'm just sitting here waiting to learn the facts. Okay, what's the next step? Who's going to be the next fight? When's the next fight? So I haven't really sat here and looked through it too much.
Man, if you're on Aspen's timeline right now, you've basically been identified as a tool. If you're listening and you kind of crapped on her just a few minutes ago, yeah, that was you she was talking about. That's funny. Well, I'm one of those tools. Now, I'm not the ones that's out there trying to bury the fighters, but I'm on social media. You know who had your back was Marion Renault. That was very cool. She had your back. She's your teammate.
Yeah.
So
well, Marion, she's awesome. And we've been training partners, teammates, and friends for a long time. Great human.
Yeah, I mean, that's two, top-ranked bantamweights training together. I mean, that's great especially because you can kind of help each other off of, she's obviously comes from a striking background. You're a beast with the ground and pound, so I think you can both play off each other. So that was great when I heard about her joining the team, and I knew you would benefit.
Absolutely.
Now, Kat Zingano's another name out there. She recently fought at 45, but I think she's got a 35-card future. 35-pound weight class future because she actually holds a win over Nunes.
Yeah.
Now, I've thrown a few names at you. Pena, Zingano. You're feeling all that, right? April 13th, one of those two. You're feeling that?
Well, absolutely. As I said, if that's the fight the UFC makes and they offer it, great, we'll jump on it. But they're all a little bit, I don't know what's going on. As I said with Tanya come back from the pregnancy. I don't know if she's ready, when she's ready. She's got personal stuff going on. Then we have people like Ketlin, for example, who I know is coming off an injury. Kat and Donna with the whole toe stabbing the eye thing. Who knows?
True. Yeah. Are you, is MMA a frustrating sport? Okay, so the UFC is your employer. MMA is the sport. Mm-hmm. Is it sometimes frustrating to be a professional athlete in this sport and working for a company that kind of doesn't have, I guess, like a certain type of direction, you know, in terms of like, this is what we need from you and this is how we reward you?
You know, that's kind of an interesting question just because I wouldn't know better. This is what I've done. This is the company I've been in. I was Invicta before at UFC. But when it comes right down to, like, contracts, for example, fight, I have been treated extremely well, so I appreciate the UFC. This is just one of those situations where, all right, shit happens. Let's see what's going to happen next.
Yeah, that's true. You haven't really sat at a desk in corporate America, have you?
No. Very, yeah, I've said it before, pretty young and everything, life, career, all of it.
What would you be doing if you weren't fighting in MMA? Do you know?
I try to go back and finish school, and I think I'd end up doing something with forestry service.
I was just going to say that, damn it. I love to always tell the fighters, wait, before you tell me the answer, let me guess. You know why? Because she walks her dogs every day. She's up in Northern California. And I know a lot of those schools up there, it's a popular major. But I've always found her to be outdoorsy, per se, you know?
Yeah.
So, obviously, camping's not a degree or river rafting's not a... So, I would have went in that route.
No.
You know, other than cannabis cultivation, maybe, I don't know. But I was going to just throw that out there.
You say NorCal, you think weed growing, but no. No, not a weed grower.
Well, that was more of a joke. But, yeah, I was going to say forestry. All right, so you would be interested in something like that, huh?
Oh, yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
If I wasn't a fighter. But I'm very happy with this current course. It's another little bump in the road.
You know, I heard, who was it today? There was this, you guys know there's a skier named Lindsey Vonn. Did I say that right?
She retired today.
She retired. She's going to do one last thing. I think she's a freestyle, I think it's called freestyle downhill skier, right? And she's retiring.
Okay.
In fact, as I talk to you, let me see if I can look it up. Or can you look it up, guys? Lindsey Vonn. I want you to tell me what her age is. But when I heard her quote, she said, "My mind and my body aren't on the same page. It's just her body has taken enough toll." And it's interesting because I could see that. I mean, skiing looks like you're gliding, but a lot of times you're just, the falls and the bumps along the way. That's your hips and your back and your neck and, whatever. So... But I was thinking, wow, I'd like to brush up on that sport and just see, if it's a young man / young woman sport or what it is. But you started so young, Aspen. How does your body hold up to all of these camps and training for all these years? Are you doing good so far because of your age? Are you benefiting like that? It's not like it creeps up on some of the older ones.
Yeah, that's kind of another thing. It's like, okay, you turn into your older and actually feel different. No, not particularly. I wouldn't know because I've been an older athlete. I just know how I feel right now. So I've never had a hardcore serious injury, no surgery. So I guess I can count myself very lucky as far as that's gone.
Right.
And who knows, maybe if I was a little older, I would have. But at the same time, I know plenty of athletes that are in phenomenal condition and take really good care of themselves. So.
Right.
I think it just depends on the person as far as that goes.
So it turns out Lindsey Vonn's 33, right, guys?
35.
Oh, 35. Okay, so she's going to be retiring soon. And well, I guess that's a pretty good career.
Yeah.
Have you ever mapped out how long you'd like to fight? Is there a number that stands out? Do you want to start early but end early? Or would you like to be somebody that can fight 15, 20 years as well?
I very well could be. I haven't thought it out that far yet. Like, at the moment, I'm enjoying it. I'm very young with it, and just keep going. See where it's going to take me. But no, I definitely don't plan on retiring anytime soon.
Let's get primal for a second. What do you like better, punching someone in the face or putting him in a submission where you feel like a tendon popping or somebody kind of gasping for air from a choke? Like, have you decided how you like to hurt people more?
Getting brutal now. I am definitely a TKO kind of person. I prefer to hit somebody to get the finish.
Yeah, all right. I can understand that. I remember, let me see, was it the last fight? Remember, Goes, when we were there, right? And in the finishing sequence, I remember you were vocal. You know, you could just tell you were going for it. So I could see that.
I mean, that's what we're there for. We're there to finish the other person. We're there trying to finish you. It's a kill situation.
It was the Cormier
that's how
fight.
I see it going in.
It was the Cormier Miocic card. We were there, and sorry, the McGregor,
Nope.
McGregor and Habib.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah, I know. It was McGregor,
Yeah.
and then Poland before that one. But yeah, the last one was the McGregor fight.
I think a lot of people lean more towards that TKO. There's a few people we've asked that question, and they say the submission is just sweet, but it's usually guys that don't come from that background, so they're just stoked to do it. But yeah, I think everybody kind of leans towards that TKO.
Towards
but
the TKO.
I know a lot of people say that head kick is that magic sweet spot.
Yeah. Do you have a preferred strike?
Honestly, no. It's just, for me, most of the fights, like even the ones where I've started, okay, we're going to stand, like the last fight, for example, the other person takes to the ground, and then it just ends up, it gets finished there. But it's not particularly, I don't go in and have a favorite thing, this or that. No, it's just treat everything equally, and if you hit it once, that's freaking great.
You fought in Las Vegas and once in Poland.
Mm-hmm.
You probably preferred Vegas, I imagine, because of travel and proximity. But did you enjoy anything about fighting abroad, or is that something you would want to revisit, or what do you like? So I know you don't care who's next, but do you care where you fight next, or when you fight next? Well, maybe not even when, but just where you fight next. Does that matter to you?
Oh boy, I was so excited to fight in Vegas again. I love fighting there. It has a different feel to it. It's like the fight capital. At least that's how I feel when I'm there. If it's a great fight and they're off it abroad, obviously you take it. There's not really too much of a choice there, but I prefer fighting in the States just because that's where I'm from. It's home.
Did you feel like you got hammered on your taxes when you fought international? You don't have to give me numbers, but did you notice, like, whoa, I didn't bring back as much as I thought, or anything like that?
It depends on where you fight and which country. No, I did not feel that in Poland, but I know there's other places, for example, and I won't name them right now because some people might be fighting there, and they are fighting there, where if they wanted to, they could renew with taxes. So I don't want anybody to think about that.
Okay. I got you.
So I certainly know there's a list where I would prefer not to fight.
Right.
For that, that's one of the reasons.
Is one of those lists we won't?
But yeah, that then just depends.
We won't say where, but is one of those like literally they could be fighting in 24 hours?
Yeah, very literally.
I got you. Okay. All right. Well, we've taken up enough of your time, but you know what? We got to the point so early, and you're so easy to talk to because you're just willing to fight anyone, anytime. I know you're upset, but you got youth on your side. The UFC already thinks a lot of you by matching you up with home, so we know you're going to get another quality matchup. What sucks, though, is the little investment you made in your camp. You know, you've probably been sweating and bleeding and for the last 30 days, and then they just took it away. So hopefully they make it up to you and you get something soon. But at least we got to, talk a little bit more and learn a little bit more about you each time that we have you on the show.
Yeah, I always like coming on with you guys. You're easy to talk to. I mean, as far as this goes, it sucked. It was a very unique fight, so you had to train in a unique way for it. And now it's gone, but there's nothing I can do about it, so take it and move on.
No sense in stressing. All right. Cool. All right. Well, hey, thanks, Aspen Ladd, for the time. As always, enjoy the weekend. Good luck to your teammates. I know you got a couple of them out there in Brazil, and we'll talk to you soon.
Oh, yeah. All right. Thank you.
All right. We'll see you. All right. MMA Gold is in the house there. That's Aspen Ladd. Follow her on Twitter at Aspen Ladd MMA. All right. And we're going to be back in just a couple minutes. We're going to take our last break of the first hour. It's MMA Junkie Radio on Fight Nation, Channel 93.
One fight that you don't even have up on the stage is Holly Holm versus Aspen Ladd. Can you?
Hard at all.
Correct.
I get paid to say things in this cool voice, and they get paid to be lame. Here are Gorgeous George and Goes.
All right, because of our problems earlier, we didn't get a chance to get Goes' reaction. Goes, we were listening to, the press conference together, and we both kind of thought, oh, shucks. Like when we found out Ladd wasn't going to fight Holm.
Mm-hmm.
Now we're hearing, if you haven't read the updates, just like Dana said, we're looking on fights for both of them. That ruled out USADA, that ruled out injury to both. But what's happening, it appears like, is Holm might be fighting Nunes for the title.
Oh.
Which, I guess if Vera's hurt, then maybe it makes sense because Holm just is popular. But Holm is 2-4 in her last 6. She's been dabbling at featherweight. But when you just isolate her bantamweight run, I guess, her last win was almost 2 years ago. I shouldn't say almost. It was just over 18 months ago. So about a year and a half. It was over Betch Correa. Her 2 fights before that were losses at bantamweight. Like, that's just not a #1 contender. It's just a popular fighter in Holly Holm. I know we've gone through waves of this the last 2 years. So anybody that's listening has every right to go, George, you got to catch up here. This is the fucked up era we're in where just shit happens. And I guess I got to do it. But why does this one just seem so dumb again? Like, to me. Nothing against Holly Holm.
Paper,
I know she's popular and I know she can sell. And hell, I think she's got a decent skill set to just trouble Amanda Nunes. But still, like, I don't know how this just is dumb.
That's the thing, is I think she has the skill set to actually make it pretty interesting. But you're right, it is just kind of that era where we just don't seem to figure anything out. They just kind of do whatever they want. And I don't even know if I were Holly Holm's coaches or her team. I don't even know if I'd want that matchup just because of where she's at right now. But I don't know.
Okay, you and I went to the Royal Rumble, so I went back to look at Raw. I don't watch Raw, but I figured, let me see how they react. Let's hear this whole thing with Rhonda that Josh had queued up for us the other day when she fumbled her lines a little. I wanted to see how all that went down. And as I was doing it, I was just reminded of how the flow of the show goes. Some guy will come out, talk, and then the fans are either like with you, cheering, saying their lines, or they start booing, and you just know you either need to get saved by the next fighter that comes out. But it's funny because they had this interaction. I think it was that it was Seth Rollins and maybe Corbin, or I forget what was happening, right? But all of a sudden, just Triple H comes out, and he's like an executive now, and they're talking, but they're not talking about them two fighting. And then the guy just kind of goes, "I got a wild idea. How about we fight?" And then Triple H says, "Well, no, that's not the plan." And then the guy teases Triple H and goes, "Oh, you got to ask Vince McMahon, your father-in-law, the one that makes all the the big decisions, right?" And Triple H goes, "Send a referee out here." And they had a fight, and the crowd went nuts. That's what this little sequence reminded me of. Like, Holm and Ladd just like, throw Holm in there. Like, she's not coming off any sort of a win. Or she is a win, but no streak. She's been fighting at featherweight. Just throw her in. It's so WWE-ish, like, it's just so, I mean, that's in the script of WWE to be silly like that. It shouldn't be in the script. Right now, it's Super Bowl on Sunday, man. The Patriots had to win games on the road. They had to earn a certain record to get to the playoffs. They earned that record to get one home game. Then they had to go to the road and do that. The Rams also, they had to, there's like an outline to it all, man. What the fuck?
It's the sport that we live. It's the day and age that we live with sport. But I actually thought it was starting to get a little better, and I thought they had run out of ideas for doing that. But
look where it makes sense. Tony Ferguson, he can't get a fucking title shot. Dan, we got 30 seconds. Do you want to weigh in? Save it. Top of the hour. Well, we'll keep weighing in on this because I'm telling you, man, this. I don't know why I go down this rabbit hole. I always get caught up in it, but it just seems so silly to me. And it shouldn't, because
With Tyron, the situation is interesting because there was the Colby Covington factor. He's still technically the interim champ, right, for the welterweight division?
Who?
Colby Covington.
No, he's not.
No, okay.
He is not the interim champ. He is not the interim.
So now, I guess, what went into the decision to have Usman there as opposed to Covington?
Well, we offered a fight to Covington, and Covington didn't take the fight.
During the commercial break, they were probably talking smack about their next guest, but now they're going to act like they're all cool with him. Here they are, George and Goes.
All right, so that right there is another cut from the UFC 235 press conference conference that took place yesterday. John Jones, Anthony Smith, they were present. So were Kamaru Usman, Tyron Woodley, and a few others. But yeah, sticking with that welterweight theme, because they also had Askren and Lawler up there. Everybody wanted to kind of make sense of, well, what are we sitting here with? What's the hand that we've been dealt? We know Usman's challenging Woodley. Then what? Because Askren's undefeated. He's got accolades. He's got a resume. If he beats a former champ, is he next? We know he's not, because Woodley and Askren are dead set on not fighting each other. But where does Colby Covington fit in? And, of course, you got the answer there. We knew he wasn't the interim champ, because once the Undisputed came back and defended against Darren Till, that kind of erased the other one. Same thing happened with Daniel Cormier. When Jones and Gustafsson touched gloves, the first punch was thrown, I think is what Dana White likes to say.
The title disintegrates.
The other title's gone. Now, Colby's been playing the angle of, well, no one came and took it from me. I still got it. And he's very, he takes a lot of pictures with it. And he probably still will until March 2nd. Because I imagine, God forbid, if something happened to one of them, he's maybe one of the first guys they call. But regardless, that belt just stays with him. It doesn't look like Trump kept it either. But what Dana White was very clear to say was he's not the #1 contender. And now, he used to say that before. Now he's saying he's right back just in the mix with the rest of them. Right, with Lawler and Askren, with Till and Masvidal, with Leon Edwards, with Stephen Wonderboy. He's just there. What he's saying, guys, is don't turn down fights because I'll take shit away from you.
Yeah. What he's
not
also
just
saying
the belt,
is,
but you're standing within the division.
Right.
What he's also saying is that title doesn't mean anything. If I were a fighter and I were fighting for the interim title, after what happened to Colby, I would seriously think, why am I going through this?
Are you sure?
Am I really the interim title champ? Is that really a thing? What's going on here?
Okay, well, let me just tell you one thing, though. When Colby won the interim title, had Tyron not been able to come back and he defended his interim title, or if he fought Woodley, I believe, don't quote me, we'll have to investigate this, he does get the benefit of pay-per-view points. So that's one incentive to always have that belt. I believe that's something that either Colby said or I just found out or whatever, that you do get that. You do get that. But I hear what you're saying. Like, it just doesn't seem to really lead to much. I mean, you have next, but you have next on the UFC's terms. And I thought they were very out of line. The guy fought in June, and by early September, so a little bit over 2.5 months, that's not. I don't know.
He had a legitimate excuse why he couldn't fight,
and he was gonna fight in November.
And if you look at his past, he's never had those problems before.
Yeah.
So it was a shitty situation.
For me, it's just, I was going to say, I was trying to interject Tony, even more of a harder case example. How are you going to put together that many wins in the most deepest division, and then we're just going to pretend like you never had a belt? I mean, so I wouldn't blame Colby to do the. I mean, the Dana thing, I don't even know if that's news. I mean, it really, his stance hasn't changed if you read between the lines, for the last how many months now. But if I were Colby, I wouldn't blame him if he starts, sporting that move Tony did, which I appreciated at UFC 226, showing up to the stare downs wearing the belt backwards, kind of like in protests and stuff. And especially those older belts, right? Because they look more vintage now. If you're toting around a Rebel older belt, I think it's badass, man. Make it your prop. Use it.
Yeah. A couple other things. Look, this press conference was really, really interesting. Usman and Woodley had a nice exchange. You guys catch that?
Yeah.
And Woodley was on to something. It was very clever and very funny. When Usman does talk, he likes to slow things down, talk, and as he talks, did you hear Woodley call him LL Cool J?
No.
Yeah, that was great.
He did. He called him LL Cool J, and it's funny because Usman would go, all right, listen here. Listen. Check it out. man, you ain't the champ. It was so funny because it sounded like a hip-hop song where you're saying whatever and then things slow down, like in the next, what do you call it, a stanza, a chorus, or whatever, that thing.
You know it's true.
Yeah, exactly. And then every time Usman talked after that, he sounded a little bit like well, maybe not so much LL Cool J, but like one of the guys from Boys the Men, you know, girl, you know you're the one.
Yeah, well, he did have that kind of R&B style talking where you break down the lyrics and it sounds good, but when you really break down what they're saying, you're like, Usher, you want to take me to a place nice and quiet? Like, what are you talking about? This sounds really creepy. And I believe I don't know if you guys caught it, but I was listening to the road show and on the way in, and I believe Kenny and John were talking about it. I guess Kamaro did one of those things where he said something about I'm gonna come on your face, like kind of like Bobby Green said in an interview that he did with.
He said that?
Yeah, like because he was they're talking crap. He's like, I'm gonna come at you. He's like, oh yeah, come with it. And I think he did one of those lines. And Bobby Green, of course, had one where he was he still takes it out on Kenny to this day because it was one of those presser interviews. And he's like, yeah, I'm gonna come at him. I'm gonna come on. And it was one of those things he got a contest.
When he was here?
Yeah, he did bring it up here. Yes,
right? And he brought it up to him.
Yeah, or Kenny wasn't here, but he brought it up, and he goes, "Which one of you junkies was that?" I'm like, "Oh, it was Kenny." He goes, "Yeah, that's right, it was Kenny. Kenny was the one that took my thing out of context." And sorry, I didn't mean to be vulgar there, but no, that's I guess one of the things he kind of said, and it was while they were going back and forth, and I didn't catch it. But
there's
something about trash talk. That's something I said with the DC thing. Like, I'm gonna get in that ass. Like, I don't know the cultural slang on where these terms come from, but like. MMA we already dangerously crossed to like where you don't have to take out of context for people to be like, what? Like if you weren't watching a fight, you were listening to commentary, it already sounds suspect enough.
Right.
Like I don't know if our trash talk needs to be already at that level, like where you don't need to really take it out of context. You're just like, wait, what did he say?
The whole thing's on Junkie. If you guys want to catch it, there was some some good back and forth. I think Ben Askren showed everyone why he should have been here 3-4 years ago. He can hype up a fight like
gotta back it up too.
He's one of the best. He's one of the best at hyping a fight, and I think the UFC dropped the ball. However long that was ago, 3, 5, I don't know, however many years they could have had him. I think he could have been a star as long as he kept winning. And even if he didn't, I still think he's just in the mix. He's always picking fights with everybody. Okay, we got a couple more cuts. Let's just talk about John Jones a little bit. John Jones, he's a little paranoid when it comes to what he puts in his body. And I want to say I don't blame him, but I wonder if he's just playing it up a little bit. Look, man, a picogram, whatever the hell came up, I don't think it's because a waiter slipped it in him or a fan handed him a bottle of water. I don't know. Well, let's hear that cut, Josh, if you don't mind.
Yeah, it's been a lot of changes. Yeah, like the main thing is like with trust. Like getting comfortable, being able to let someone know I don't trust you. You know what I mean? Like you have a person come up to you who maybe thinks they're buddies, and they can be your buddy, and they maybe bring you a shot or something, and it's just like, I'm good, man. Or someone makes you cookies or something like that, and you just, hey, with all due respect, I probably should, So it's been a little adjustment, getting used to kind of letting people know, like, I have to respect what I put my body in a different level, and I feel like my closest friends are very comfortable with it. They understand my situation.
Dan, flat out, do you believe him, or does that all just sound like BS?
I mean, I think I can not just honestly, but I think I can genuinely as well say that, yeah, or fairly I should say that, yeah, I mean, with the track record that he's kind of laid down and whatnot. Now,
do you think someone would bake him cookies and go, I know what I'm going to do, I'm going to spike it with Turinabol or whatever it takes to get him flagged?
I will say this, though, in regards to that, it's hard because you want to answer these questions on whatever attitude or information that we're used to with John Jones, and that's immediately, which is, I think, fairly to say is the question. But to that, like what you're saying, spiking of food, I don't know if it was, I saw a tweet, I don't know if it was, might have been Luke Thomas actually, but tweeted something about, the danger of, running regulation this way where that stuff actually becomes real. And, let's be honest, you made a little bit of an extreme comparison, but George, what about, when you go to South America or you're familiar with the football, soccer culture, And you know those teams, you know, like when Chile and Argentina are doing crossover games, like they're not, they're probably careful where they go eat at what establishments or whatever, right? I mean,
yeah, I guess I've heard stuff like that, but I think a lot of times, for every 10 stories I hear, I know that 9 are either a fabrication or they're like a what's the word?
Exaggeration.
Yeah, like an exaggeration or not a ghost story, but just people fooling about more than anything. And people like to exaggerate it or add on to the story or I don't know. I've heard of people like pulling fire alarms so teams get stay up all night or whatever, but that sort of contamination. The problem is that John has had so much buffoonery in his life that I'm just not prepared to even if that was the first time that we could take him serious, it's so hard to do it. You know what I mean?
Yeah, it's tough, man.
Look, I think somebody said it best recently. It was on the show, and if not, I'll just say it. I think they were right. More than likely, when he was powerlifting and got big, he probably just had some sort of a mix there, some sort of a shake that that violates, and that's why it pulses or whatever the term is that they use within his body. But more than likely, he did take something just because he wanted to get bigger at the time. He wasn't competing, and that's fine, no big deal. But I don't know. These athletes, they a lot of them know what they're doing.
And I feel like it's not that we're trying to tinfoil hat against him now. Not that there aren't those people. To John's point, that even if John did knowingly do it, he's pulling one over on us, but he knows all along. Even if that were the case, he would still have every reason really to be paranoid because now he's on that one more mess up, and I really don't know how. It could mess with him in that sense because
that's paranoia though that he's stepping on right now.
You got to be though. I mean, at this point, even whether you knowingly did things or unknowingly did things, it's really difficult. It's really difficult to even try to go forward now because you're in the back of your mind, one more mess up, guys. And even if I am John Jones, that could be the end of my career. That could be the end of this. And I got to imagine. I'm not saying you should feel bad. I'm not trying to play the violin for him here, but that is real. That there is something to that.
Okay. Now, let's talk about one last thing here. Anthony Smith saying no one's betting on him. I'll say this. I wouldn't put major money on Anthony Smith, and it's nothing against Anthony Smith. It's just because John Jones just doesn't lose. And over 5 rounds, the longer the fight goes, the easier it is to believe that he's going to hang on to his title. But Anthony Smith has powerful strikes that can put people out. If you want to put $10, $20, $50, whatever it is that you can afford, whatever it is that you would consider not much. So if you're let's say you have $500,000 in the bank, $100 bet is probably the same to you as me who doesn't have anywhere near that in the bank, but I put a little dub, a 20.
That still hurts us, but yeah, I get what you're talking about.
Yeah, I can live with losing it. Put that on the first round TKO stoppage Smith. That's all. Doesn't mean he's going to win the fight. But it means that I believe is his best shot. He should sell out. Forget about the 25-minute chess match. That's a tough one. I just don't think John is tough to beat, man. It's tough to win rounds on him, and it's tough to win 3 of those to top it all off. When you're in there against him, you're very stressed. He seems to take you out of his game, and then once he gets like fluid, I mean, he's like 3 or 4 steps ahead of you. When you're reacting to that elbow, all of a sudden there's a knee. When you're reacting to the knee, boom, a shin to the head. He is that. That's how awesome John Jones is. But if you go out there and blitzkrieg him early on, I think that's your best shot. That's what I would do with Anthony Smith. But he's saying no one's going to bet him. But I think you're wrong, Anthony Smith. I think there will be some. But Josh, can you please play that cut?
I've been doubted my entire career. I'm a small town kid from Nebraska. Like, I'm not supposed to be here anyways. So what we do is we strip the name and the face away from the person, and we just attack the problems. And that's what we do. We know what's in front of us. We know what John brings to the table. There's plenty of footage out there, and that's how I attack it. I just don't make that big of a deal of it. to me, it's another fight, and I've been chasing this dream to be a world champion for a long time. There's been its ups and downs, and you know, no one's ever counted on me to win. You know, that's just not how my career is.
What Anthony does have in his favor is he has nothing to lose, and he knows it. And I think he's using that to his advantage. And if you look at John Jones and his past, this fight with Alexander Gustafsson kind of reinforces what he said all along, was I just didn't take that fight too serious. And now that we know that he's done that before, because we can look at other fights and say he probably didn't do that either. Maybe this is the guy, Anthony Smith, that he doesn't take as serious.
Yeah, and what's interesting to me is I get what I agree with you there, George, and I get I get your theory, George, as far as early on paper against Jones, but that's what worries me, is that's not who Anthony Smith is. One of his biggest problems, not problems for being critical, and he said so himself, this is something that he admits to. Slow starter, you're right. Yeah. And that's going to be the biggest problem against a guy like Jones for the reasons that you said, George. But here's kind of my takeaway.
I like how he got going against Shogun.
Yeah. Yeah, that was a bit of a faster fight. I mean, there was. I mean, you need a dance, but again, that's a different matchup with a different dance partner. Matchup starting a certain way, but I was going to say, here's my takeaway from the press conference in relation to an early lean or early analysis as far as his path to victory, because one actually popped in my head while I was watching the presser. And it was John Jones, who was very smart, and he was already getting ahead of the points that Goes was bringing up about, you know, Gustafsson rematch. You could tell he was kind of like wanting to prep himself for the reasons Goes said. You know, you could see that situation to build up again potentially. And he was, you know, John Jones was really smart. You know, already cited that he's doing his homework on Anthony Smith. But one of the things he was saying was, and something I say all the time too, and it was funny that he critiqued himself of this, because I feel like he's already shown these improvements. So but he was speaking like future tense, like he's going to show these improvements. He's like, when I go to southpaw, everybody knows the kick's coming, and that's very true. Not necessarily to him, but in modern stance shifting, when guys go southpaw, oh, here comes the left body kick. I mean, it's very common, and you kind of know what's coming. And he's like, well, I'm working more on my boxing. And to be honest, his boxing's already been improving since the second Cormier fight. I saw it take a real exponential jump, and then even from southpaw, he was talking about countering. He was doing his own version of the counter left cross that McGregor made so famous in the fight against Gustafsson, his rematch, his recent one, right? So he's kind of already doing those things, but that's what worries me, is because Anthony Smith's best weapon, it's cliche as it sounds, especially in this fight, is the right hand. Anthony Smith is a bad man in the clinch, but John Jones is the best clinch fighter. Look how he does against one of the best clinch fighters in the world, Daniel Cormier. I mean, the high-level clinch fighting is insane, but you're right down the middle, because look who his last southpaw he faced was Hector Lombard. Granted, that's a giant, that's the complete opposite end of the spectrum of John Jones. I grant you that. But he threw that right hand down the middle, and it followed Hector Lombard. And that's the one thing, Anthony Smith, he follows guys out of the clinch and out of the exchanges. He extends his shoulders. He's got a long reach himself.
Right. He's 6'3" to John's 6'4".
Yes.
So this is a fight that's going to be, in a way, stance-wise, similar to what Gustafsson brings to the table versus the DCs and the others, the Rampages, Shoguns, where he had, you know, decided reach advantage. All right, I want to do one more cut, and then we're going to go to a break. I feel like the star of the press conference was still Ben Askren, even though he just didn't have the verbal sparring partner in Robbie Lawler. He was just hilarious. He was calling Usman Marty, you know, from the old wrestling days, his name from, I guess, maybe when he came over from Nigeria, maybe that's what he went by. He was instigating. He was telling Dana, let's get 65 going. He was just inciting things. Can you play that one? This one's a little bit more tame, but he talked about fighting Lawler. Thanks, Josh.
I wanted to pick on Darren Till. He's annoying as shit. In the first phone call, they said Robbie, and I said okay. Obviously, Robbie, if you look at his skill set, one of the worst matchups in the top 10 for me. You know, does pretty well against wrestlers, hits hard. That's what you need to beat me, right? Now, that's fair. I'm good with that, okay? I didn't come here for the right fight. I didn't come here for the easy fight. I didn't come here for the damn money fight. I came here to fight the best world and prove that I am. I want to compete, and so I'm ready to compete on March 2nd.
See how he's just smooth in whatever he says. He has good thoughts. He thinks things out. I think a lot of fighters could definitely just improve so that they so that they don't get lost in the shuffle of a press conference like that. He's already poked at Darren Till while giving Lawler respect because he knew there was nowhere to get with Lawler because Lawler wasn't going to give anything back to him. Now, if Lawler did, Askren would know it and he would have poked, but he figured, you know what, I'll keep it real. That way I get a little bit of respect from some of the ones that are haters. Maybe I can turn them into fans. And guess what? I'm already fishing for, if I beat Lawler, I can maybe do something with Till or someone else, but people are talking about me. That was a 29-second cut, but he covered a lot.
Planting those seeds.
If you look at him, he's got the big hair. He's got the cool nickname. He can talk on the mic. You're right. He does have to win some fights, but let's go back in history, and who's a guy who kind of did something similar that didn't really win all that many fights? Chael Sonnen was able to pull that off for a long time.
Yeah.
So I think Ben Askren can be really, really good at this role. But the thing is, people can identify with him right away. They'll hear him. They'll remember him. He's giving them reasons to remember him, and I think that's very important.
I agree. All right, so we're going to take a break. When we come back, I want to talk about two things. One, we're going to do our daily debate. I think you guys are going to have some fun with this. It also has to do with the press conference. But two, I'm going to tell you why I think Anthony Smith, is in a better position than some of the previous John Jones opponents. It doesn't mean I'm picking him because I'm not. But I still think I've seen a little bit of this recipe in prior title fights. So stay close. Don't touch that dial. MMA Junkie Radio on Fight Nation, Channel 93. Michael Bisping was filming a movie in Toronto, and he had to fill in to fight Luke Rockhold at UFC 199. He had 3 weeks, and he didn't have time to get better, to think about things. He just had to focus on making weight. Not 186, but 185. Bisping's older. That's not an easy task, but luckily he was able to do it. I remember him saying one thing. He goes, you know what? The reason I feel good about this fight, he goes, and I'm not bullshitting you guys, because Bisping knows how to hype up a fight too.
Right.
Is I haven't had time to get nervous about it, or to overthink it, or to even remember how Luke bopped them up in Australia years ago. You know, I just knew that all I had to do was make weight, go out there and give it my best. This was my shot, and it might be my last shot. So he just didn't have that time to like overthink it and, you know, 12-week camp, 10-week camp, flying around the world, press conferences, having to hear over and over that you're a tremendous underdog or whatever. This one's different. This one isn't apples to apples. But Anthony Smith didn't even want to fight till the summer because he had a busy year.
Yeah.
He wanted some time off, probably had an injury or two. He's just on the desk of Fox. It was the last Fox broadcast at UFC 233. What was it? 32? 32.
I don't know.
Yeah. And all of a sudden he has this exchange with John. That catches fire. Next thing you know, they come to him, and he's fighting in 1 month. That's what makes him dangerous to me, is that he hasn't had time to think about it and hear over and over about how, boy, you better be on your best night and hope that John is at 30% or whatever, because otherwise you got no chance. Now remember, he had a big year, and he didn't really have the chance to rest off that big year he had, because I think he had like the 3 fights in 9 months or 10 fights or something like that. Because remember, he lost to Thiago Santos at the beginning of 2018. He had actually 4 fights.
What?
So it's not 3 weeks like Bisping, but I just think it's reminding me of that. Now that said, maybe I'm looking for reasons to sell everyone on the fact that they should tune in. Why? I don't get a pay-per-cut view or nothing like that, but I want people to get excited about our sport. And I do know this much. Anthony Smith can throw strikes that can put people out. So again, Anthony, if you're listening, you know, first round, you're going to start to fade a little bit. Second round, and then that's going to be about it. Hopefully you take them out by then. If you have enough gas to bank that third and run for the last 2, okay. But I just don't see that happening. But I still think that this one's a little bit different. Now, you said something about Buster Douglas. Do you want to explain why you feel that way, or are you just guessing that I felt that way a little bit?
Well, I guess I feel that way because Buster was just a guy that very few people knew who he was. But if you look at his record, it wasn't that bad going in. But the situation was somewhat a little bit similar. And the style that Buster fought compared to some of the last opponents that Tyson had fought was a little, there are a couple things that it has in common. Did you want to?
I was going to say I got a parallel for you if you're trying to shovel for one yourself. Is that not only kind of what ties in what George says and what you're saying goes is the parallels here is that Anthony Smith was, like George said, just saying, hey, I got injuries, things I got to keep. I'm not planning on fighting. He was deciding against it at that time, just not even that long ago. Whereas Buster Douglas, correct me if I'm wrong, guys, his mother passed away, and his camp was saying, hey, don't take this fight. And he was kind of did the move where we've seen fighters do it before. Say, no, I'm going to use it for adversity. And that's where we go, ooh, even if we're supporting that fighter, because you never know how that's going to go, right, guys?
Right.
But Buster Douglas put it together on that night, though kind of like what Goes was saying, if you look up to that point, and if you guys want to continue on further past that point, nothing really a huge highlight. If you would have went and beat Holyfield, I believe it was, after, that would have been huge for him. But it really,
at least a decent showing. I think he lasted like 3 rounds.
Yeah. But back to that parallel you were saying, there's a couple parallels there.
Yeah, I mean, I kind of hear what you're saying a little bit, George. But I think the only difference is, say for a guy like Shogun, we can compare it to Bisping, because Shogun's been there on that really, really big stage. And Anthony hasn't. He's been on bigger stages, but he hasn't been on the big stage. So I think no matter what, I think the nerves will get to him.
Probably.
But I think because Bisping had been in those situations before, he had that ability to just kind of go, hey man, I'm just gonna show up and I got nothing to lose. I can do that.
if I was Anthony, I would have hoped that they didn't have what they had yesterday. Just more time to think about it. You know what I mean? You just want to get to the event, go out there, be quiet, and do your job and see what happens.
Yeah,
another thing about Anthony Smith is he's 30 years old, but do you ever hear a fighter go, "It's my time to be a champion"?
Yeah.
A lot of fighters feel that. I don't feel like it's Anthony Smith's time to be a champion. I still think he's filling into his 205 body. He just came out of 185 less than a year ago, and it was off a loss. Now, granted, it was to another guy that went up to 205, but regardless, he had a successful year. He earned his spot. That's fine. But I still think that he can afford to lose this one and still come back as long as John doesn't steal his soul and just thump him for 25 rounds or 25 minutes. So he should know that perform well, give the champ hell, and if you can knock him out, great. But if not, just know that you'll still have another run to build to. You know what I mean?
That's true.
That's all.
But doesn't it depend on how he looks, though, as well?
Perhaps, but again, it's a shallow division.
As fans, like you wanna see something in that fight that makes you say, we got to see that again.
It's a shallow division. We'll see. Did I hear you say that Jones was building to a third fight with Gustafsson or something like that? Did I hear you say that?
No. I was just talking about his rematch and his boxing skills and how if he does toy, maybe does toy around southpaw or something like he was alluding to. I was just saying, maybe there could be a scenario there for that straight right down the
Jones,
center.
Gus part 3.
I didn't hear anything about that.
Thank God. Okay, yeah, we don't need to see that one. I was all for part 2, but you could just tell Gustafsson's just not going to beat that guy. So I don't want to see part 3 unless someone else beats Jones that Gustafsson's beat that person. Then he's in.
Got to fill in late notice or
something like that. Yeah,
it's got to have some kind of storyline to it.
Exactly. All right. So let's go to our daily debate. I think now's a good time to talk about that. That way we can put a bow a little bit on UFC 235, the press conference that took place. If you don't know, March 2nd is the event with John Jones defending against Anthony Smith, Tyron Woodley defending against Kamaru Usman. But there's some other quality matchups here. And so they had this press conference yesterday. We want to know which matchup is the most on the rise coming out of the first UFC 235 press conference. The reason we say first is on fight week there'll be others. So here are the choices, guys. Jones Smith, Woodley Usman, Askren Lawler, or Garbrandt Munoz. Go ahead, Goes.
Askren Lawler. But not because of that particular matchup, but because of what can come from it. Ben Askren didn't sell me on that fight. He sold me on things to come.
Yeah. Okay.
And I need to watch this fight to see what is going to be next for him. And whoever it is, I'm going to be excited because of the way Ben Askren performed at that press conference.
How about you, Dan?
It's interesting, the way it's formatted. It kind of, I guess, we're asked on the strength of the matchup itself, but I can't argue with Goes in the sense of Askren overdid his part and even did Robbie's part for him in the sense of it got people interested, and you could definitely make that argument. But for me, it was probably Woodley and Usman. You're not sure what to expect from Usman. He's still kind of getting on that big stage, kind of like you talk about, George. There's a certain levels to that stage, and he's definitely on it now. But it's his first time being on that big of a stage, and he was at least getting Woodley to come out of his shell, where we know Woodley pretty well, but we were even getting to see certain sides of Woodley, which was really nice. And I think it's going to do him well as far as his fan base and strengthening that for the current champ.
I'm with you, Dan. I also got excited about Woodley versus Usman. Both of those guys had words to say to each other. They were chirping. And I think it's going to be interesting with the mental warfare. Woodley went down a path that may come back to bite him. Even though Woodley won, probably 10-8 maybe, but 10-9 at least, by playing the whole LL Cool J card and then reminding him of, the skins that he has on his wall.
Right.
But Usman started to get into it, but he never had a chance to finish because he didn't have that voice that just thunders on the mic. He's more of a smooth guy, an R&B guy, but he was starting to go down the path of saying you had the least amount of strikes ever in a fight. Now that's something he could have cozied up to Dana with if he wanted to, because Dana was very vocal about Maia versus Woodley. Woodley was really quick and putting that fire out quickly and saying, hey, rotator cuff, broken hand, and he kind of gave some explanations there. But I'm telling you, Usman can have a little bit of fun with that. if they get in a situation where they have to go off, whether they do a radio tour or a car wash on ESPN or whatever, and he can bring that up. I know it chides Woodley a little bit because he's one of those guys that even as bright as he is, and even though he's an expert, smart smack talker, he can't get away from criticism sometimes. So I'll be interested to see part 2 of that as we lead up to. But, yeah, I'm pumped up about that one. I am pumped up about Askren Lawler because I guess you put it great. I didn't even think about that. The future of what it could hold. Is Lawler going to be back? He says he feels good after ACL. Or is Askren the real thing and he can take out a former UFC champ? We will see. Garbrandt and Munoz it was kumbaya between those two. And Jones and Smith just didn't have much going on as well. All right, thank you to 1,249 of you that voted. Here are the results. It was a 2-horse race, guys. At the wire, Askren versus Lawler got 43%.
Wow.
Woodley versus Usman got 42%.
Wow.
Really? 13% went to Jones and Smith. And Garbrandt and Munoz got 2%.
I'm blaming the Ross Perot faction who voted for Garbrandt and Munoz for my pick not coming through there.
2% of, let me see. If it's just 1,200, that means 120 is 10%. That means that 12 is 1%. That means 24 people thought Garbrandt and Munoz. What was so exciting about that?
I don't know.
Huh. They were just so nice to each
see
other.
how many family members they have.
Maybe it's just a sympathy vote because they're such nice guys. Maybe that's a sympathy vote, I guess, huh?
That's our daily debate.
All right.
Brought to you by the MMA Junkie Radio team. I think we should do our last break, right? And then we can coast to the finish line. All right. It's MMA Junkie Radio on SiriusXM Fight Nation Channel 93. Stay close, and we will be right back.
During the commercial break, they were all tested for performance-enhancing drugs. George and Goes came back clean, but Dad tested...
30 Eastern? Oh. I done goofed. Hang on a second.
What are you going to do at 10:30 Eastern, George?
Take Viagra? Oh, that's me. Sorry. That's Zantom.
Like a lot of it. No. Listen, tonight at 10 Eastern, which is in 15 minutes, the Houston Rockets look to blast off against the Denver Nuggets on NBA Radio, Series 207, XM86, and streaming on your phone, and at home on SiriusXM connected devices and speakers.
I don't know that that's a threat.
I want to check and see if I got them. Remember yesterday I told everyone I think Portland can get one back on the Jazz because the Jazz have been owning them this year.
Oh, we bet Chipotle on you lost, by the way.
I did?
Yeah.
What did we bet it on?
On the Bucks and the Raptors.
My name's
Really?
Bucking them.
Damn. Okay.
I don't know what how the other game ended though.
I'll tell you right now. Let's see here.
I'm pretty stoked. The card you gave me. You know what number it has on there, right? Did you give that to me on purpose?
Pippen.
That's right, baby. Scotty P. Number 33.
Hey, why isn't that game listed?
Larry Bird, Alonzo Mourning. Who else was number 33 in basketball, guys?
For sure,
Patrick
Bird.
Ewing?
Patrick Ewing, that's right. E-Wings got dunked on by Scotty P at the Garden. It's one of the best dunks
Glenn
ever.
Rice also, right?
That's right, Glenn Rice.
I thought he was 41.
Oh, was he? Well, he was 41 on the Heat, right?
You might be right.
Where the fuck's this game at?
I don't know.
Where'd B Rabbit at?
32 is another strong one, strong number. If you're
Magic.
if you were making like fantasy teams based on just the jersey number.
When did I give people advice to take the Blazers? Wasn't it last night's show?
I just remember talking about the Bucks and the Raptors.
Oh, I used to love Portland Trailblazers, man.
Yeah, they played yesterday. Oh,
Glide
they
to
played
glide.
Wednesday. Yeah, the Trailblazers got them. 132-105.
So when you gave that parlay, you gave
that
it a
advice
3-team,
I've been
I think.
giving people. I swear to God, I'm like 4-0 or 5-0, and the
Yeah?
NBA is crazy. Yeah,
Nice.
Or
I
at
can
least
never
my
bet on the
last,
NBA.
or at least my last 5. Well, I do a lot of unconventional picks.
Yeah.
But I mean, I have, I won't just say take them. They got great uniforms. I remember early in the year, the Jazz bit me in the ass a little bit because they were playing the Blazers and they had a home and away, and I watched those. And usually the traveling team on a back-to-back, it won't go their way, But they were on a roll then. But the Blazers has kind of figured things out a little bit, and they're starting to play ball again like they were at the beginning of the year.
You see that trade?
Porzingis
Yeah.
from New York.
Josh, how are people
Porzingis.
reacting to that in New York?
Largely with frustration, as I am. It's kind of ridiculous at this point to be a Knicks fan. I'm watching. I got the game on in the background right now, and they're losing to the Celtics. It's just the problem with that franchise is they're still valued. Correct me if I'm wrong. Last I looked, they're still valued as the most valuable franchise in the NBA, which is absurd. So there's no incentive to change. One incentive is there for ownership to do anything different when they're raking in more money than anybody else. That's the problem.
I think they should go back to the Knickerbockers. I used to live off Knickerbocker Ave, and I would be like, why did they go away from that? That sounded so cool, Jazz used to be in New Orleans, right? Because I don't know about a lot of jazz coming from Utah. No offense, Utah.
Do you remember when our aunt went to the Jazz game in a nice dress and heels?
Did she?
Yeah, our uncle told our aunt when they moved to Salt Lake, "I'm taking you to see the Jazz tonight." She thought it was like a concert.
Speaking
all decked out.
Speaking of the Jazz, whenever someone on the courts back in the 90s, you were playing rec ball or whatever, the guy is wearing like too short of shorts, we'd be like, look at John Stockton over there.
Yeah.
Yeah. Hornacek and
I've
Stockton.
used that.
Hornacek, the whitest guy ever to play basketball.
All right, real quick, because we're gonna bounce pretty soon, but just Dillashaw. Look, I'm a pretty big Dillashaw fan.
Yeah.
I like that guy. But here's the title of this story. It says, T.J. Dillashaw labels Henry Cejudo's win a fluke, still insists on a rematch. That night, I'll give you a pass because you're emotional. You just got knocked in the head. All right. But all I would say is this. Look, champ, because you're still champ of 35. It sucked. You lost. But the dude did hit you with a punch. Henry has developed power. It's not like, oh, my God, where did this power come from? And he's a champion, too. You fought him because if you won, you were going to tell everyone, I beat Henry Cejudo. And we're all going to go, wow, that's a skin on your wall. It's not like he beat a bum, a tomato can, a Tijuana taxi driver. So he shouldn't call it a fluke because it kind of takes away from what he would have called it had he won.
I agree.
Here's the other thing, champ. If you defend against a Sunsao or Moraes, you get pay-per-view points when you're champ. If you go back to fight Dillashaw at Cejudo 25, yeah, you are chasing history, but then what? You're 1-1, and then he's going to call it a fluke to you? Like, I don't know that that's really been built up. So I would say defend at 35, hold your turf, and circle back and see what happens. TJ is a victim of his own competitiveness. He says he's a sore loser, but I've always felt like he's a smart guy. Just take a step back out of the batter's box, think it through, and realize that's not your best course of action to go back and fight Cejudo. Dominate your weight class. You got some great fights, man. I mean, we keep talking about how bantamweight, featherweight, it could really, really flourish right now. And, you know, I don't know.
I definitely second you on the great fights, but taking it up to the next level, what are some of the greatest fights that never happened? For example, there was a certain point where eventually Cruz, they had to let him go and make Barao from interim to actual champ, right? But even though Barao kind of faded off and Cruz had his own struggles, I would still argue that that would be one of the fights that one of the great fights we never got to see in that division as far as champions that never crossed over. You could also say, obviously, Khabib Tony obviously is another one that fits that. But what are some of those matchups, guys, that never really got to have? I know I don't mean to sidetrack because perhaps that's a daily debate for down the line, but you kind of bring up that point, George. You know, what are some of the bigger fights that it costed us, these types of decisions where we never saw the champions? They actually missed the window, and they reigned right near the same time pretty much.
Did you already say Silva GSP?
That's got to be up there as far as super fights. So champ or just
what are the parameters again?
Like for example, Barao and Dominic Cruz never crossed.
Aldo one that fell through?
That was rumored, and now Aldo's talking about revisiting that after this at lightweight, which I don't hate. But for example, a smaller spectrum would be even just more relevant. Woodley Covington. There were two belts, and we never got a chance to unify it. Khabib Tony, obviously the belts, the matchmaking.
That's a little bit on Woodley though. Woodley didn't want it for forever, and we kept telling him,
right,
Tyron, do it. He did all the heavy lifting. The fight's been sold. He didn't do it. And then towards the end, he wanted it more than Usman, but it was too late.
And these are within the same organizations, mind you. Of course, we could do, I want to see Chandler versus this guy or Fedor versus back in the day. Of course, those arguments will always hold, but.
About Cormier and Bader. Maybe at the time wasn't as sexy. It was
now
starting to develop to be,
but
now
nice
looking back, it would have been nice.
And speaking of
how about AJ versus Jones?
Yeah.
That was one that never happened. Supposed to be at 184.
Yeah.
UFC 184, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, and that was another good one within the organization. Shoot, man. I mean, maybe Stipe Cormier Miocic Cormier the rematch could end up being on that list. Who knows how those things play out? But
all right, guys. I know that we've already turned in our picks, so it's safe to just maybe any final thoughts on Sunsao and Moraes?
Dude, I don't know about Sunsao and Moraes. If you guys want to cue that, I'll say there's one pick on the main card that I'm thinking about second guessing, but it's too late now. But I'll say which one it is.
Sure.
It was Oliveira Timur. I think I might have officially went with Oliveira, but I think Timur is gonna get it. Timur,
I like Oliveira. Yeah? Why do you like Timur?
Timur opened as the favorite as he should have, but because Oliveira is a more popular guy, not just popular, he's a real popular guy amongst betting and hardcores. People love betting DuBronx, and if you really went and bet DuBronx by submission, DuBronx round one, I know guys have been doing that for years, and including his losses, you come up big time on plus money. So there's a lot of that hype, a lot of that trend, a lot of that knowing. But if you're gonna pick a guy, I want to pick a guy like Timur who's upsetting the odds makers every time. He's always consistently undervalued and overperforming, right? So the odds makers are undervaluing him, and he's overperforming to where he is. And more importantly, he's a disciplined fighter. He's just a southpaw. He's got excellent wrestling. He's able to defend takedowns against guys like Lando Venata or Drakkar Klose and even take them down in matchups. He's always doing fundamentals like pushing on the head, fighting hands, keeping his head above his opponents. Things you're going to have to do. I think out of the last 4 fights, only one guy's been able to even grab his neck, and that was Nick Lentz, who specializes in guillotines, but that wasn't until the 3rd round. I mean, so it just really, I really look at it, and unless Oliveira gets something going in the 1st round, I could see Timur just picking up and pulling away from him, because even Oliveira, we've seen him kind of check out of fights when things start going his way. He's great in that 1st round. You look at his record. So a real contentious one to see the line movement. What's that currently lined at right now, George? You got it in front of you.
Yeah, I do. It's Oliveira minus 120, Timur plus 110.
Shoot.
But it's up there.
They pushed him to dog money. There you go.
Let me give you a dog.
Okay.
All right. I think Ledet has a chance against Johnny Walker.
Yeah, I could see that.
I do.
I think
I
there's
do
some
as well.
hands there that people are just kind of dismissing.
Maybe we're all falling in love.
I mean, look, Walker might turn out to be a destroyer. I love the fact that he can talk English. I didn't think he could. And Fernanda Pratas doing a great job for us down in Brazil. She had an interview with him. And
yeah, that's
he
right.
was actually charming. And, like, did you see him trip
charismatic,
at the press conference?
I think
and
that's
he
his
played
gig.
that off?
I think that's his gimmick.
Oh, is it? Okay.
Yeah, he fell on his face after a win. And for sure, he's really dangerous, so there's a lot of hype on him. He's the more notable guy in that sense. But it's real dangerous because the reason why I picked Khalil to beat him is because not only has Johnny Walker been stopped before, it was those straight boxing shots from orthodox, and even a guy hit him straight from southpaw. The same shot Khalil ices most people, so I picked Khalil. Obviously, we saw what happened there in the clinch. But back to George said about the striking. Say what you will about Ladd underperforming, flat earth talk. Say what you will, the guy can box at the end of the day, right?
Yeah.
He can throw those shots down the pipe. So, and it's practically a heavyweight fight, guys. Let's be honest. Light heavyweight is practically heavyweight, so he's live.
I'm really looking forward to that fight, and he comes in at plus 177.
Did you pick him?
Walker minus 192. I think I went with Walker
I did
on
too.
staff picks, but I probably only put him in a parlay because, you know, those underdogs just jump up. I got him, and I think a Sun Sao is another guy.
It's another
if you
live
want
dog,
a
yeah.
3-team underdog parlay, a Sun Sao, the Det, and probably Aldo. Although that Moicano line is shooting up.
What is that listed at now? Because I'm on Aldo.
Moicano's minus 135. Aldo's plus 125.
I'm playing some dogs tonight, next 24
the
hours,
dogs
gentlemen.
might be barking. Hey, we got Sammy the Squid chilling in.
Yeah, there we go.
Sammy, you want to walk over here, and that way we could just pop in the camera? Just walk over here, and I think it'll extend, right, guys? Yeah.
Yeah.
Let's talk a little bit about the Super Bowl. Or are you just going to put him in, Dan? Okay.
Yeah.
All right, so Sammy the Squid, he is the 2013 college football king of Las Vegas. Of course, he's done well in other years as well. And, yeah, it's been a while since he's been on the show. We got a few minutes, and it's the biggest game of the year in terms of the pigskin. Welcome back, Sammy.
Good to be back,
Which
guys.
way are you leaning on the Super Bowl? Let me give you the most current here, just so I don't I'm sure I'm not catching you off guard, but it's minus 2.5 for the Patriots. And the latest total I have is 56 for 8 touchdowns.
Leaning. I'm leaning Rams. There's a couple threes in town if you shop, is what I heard.
You.
Why do you like the Rams? You're going against Belichick, Brady. Explain that.
I'm looking at the whole body of work of the year. Everyone's as good. I mean, everyone remembers the last game they saw, right? So the Patriots dominated the last two, and the Rams got the break to get in there. But if you look,
Well, they did dominate, but KC came back.
Right.
So San Diego got dominated. They had a little bit of a comeback, but nowhere near KC. KC actually could have won the game if not for the offside. So, but they did dominate the first half.
Right. And the Rams have had that body of work. I think the Rams are healthy. Gurley's a little questionable, but that C.J. Anderson.
Oh, he's a freight train, isn't he?
I mean, yeah, he's kind of a beast. And, I pretty much have the teams even. So if you can get 2.5, 3, there's your advantage.
Just take them on the money line, or do you think it might be a 27-28 and you benefit by taking the points?
It could be one of those where it comes down to a missed extra point. 28-27, something like that.
Do you like the under or the over?
56, I think I'd like the over. I think it opened at 58 or something. Did it open something crazy?
58, yeah. Yeah, it did.
I would probably have to lean the under there. That 56 is obviously a key number. But I think I'm going to have more fun with the prop bets.
We got about 1 minute. Tell me one that sticks out to you.
I like a missed extra point. If they think there's going to be 8 touchdowns scored.
Someone will
it's still a 35-yarder, right? And I like that mixed extra point. I like Brady to get sacked more than I forget what the number is, but I'd go over on that. I think it's 3.5. I like him to get a lot of pressure from that Rams line.
Well, if anybody wants to reach out with any of the pigskin questions or leans, they can reach you, right?
Yeah.
Still?
Yeah, reach me at sammytsquid@gmail.com.
There you have it.
I'm on Twitter as well.
All right, cool. I want to thank all of our guests, Joseph Benavidez, Jake Hager, Henry Krause, Ryan Bader, Joe Riggs, Beck Rawlings, Aljamain Sterling, Sam Alvey, Aspen Ladd, and Sammy the Squid. Good luck to Chris Lytle this weekend. We are out of here. For Jumbo, Josh, and Dan and Goes, I'm George. Have a nice weekend. Keep it locked on MMA Junkie throughout the weekend, and we'll be back on Monday. Be a champion.